Next up, we're talking about range control. Range control is intentionally using what distance you are from your opponent to be able to open up specific strikes or lead and win the fight. Let's demonstrate. On a real field circumstance, we'd actually be looking at each other from a distance, thinking about how we might try and approach our opponent. So we have visible range, where we see each other. We have a just out of engaging range, or flirtatious range, where one major step or lunge could put us within max range, in which our weapons are able to strike any of our opponent's torso quadrants. And then beyond closing in from maximum range, it only takes a dip, a gentle step, a short step with our front foot, only moving about 6 to 12 inches, and we all of a sudden have a lot more opportunity to strike our opponents. My strike is not at the maximum distance of my weapon, it's at the mid distance of my weapon actually striking my enemy. This also opens up angles that can wrap around a shield, a wrap shot over a shoulder, around a hip, and so forth. Medium range, we both have a lot of shots open to strike on each other. Close range would be when we're almost so close that there's not much to do except try and wrap deeply around the other person's guard. The key about range control is keeping it where you're comfortable and you do your best work. If I'm a taller person, it can be safer and more advantageous to me to keep the fight at max range while my opponent tries to swing at me and I actually have more shots open on her. She generally just is able to reach my arm in swinging motion. If I can keep the fight at this range, I stand to keep the advantage. By the same token, if you're more comfortable, especially using shields, if you're more comfortable getting into the close-in zone than your opponent is, more comfortable throwing wrap shots to reach around your opponent, or more comfortable shoving your opponent around to be able to strike them, you have some advantage in closer ranges. Let's take a look at closing range with intentional steps when we have sword and shield in our hands. So, for instance, if I slide deep towards my opponent's inside, I'm hoping to draw her guard, overcompensating to her inside. Perhaps my next step or slide is to try and shoot past her guard and hit her in the hip or the back, or have a safe shot at a leg. And then at that point, I can slide away and get out of her range. Alternatively, I could slide towards her shield side, hoping that her guard opens on her inside. My next step comes through and across, inside the slot between shield and weapon, on a shoulder, on an arm, or on a hip. So in full motion, it would look something like this. And I can add a feint to it as well to really pull that guard on the slide in. Ideally, I'm pulling her guard very intentionally, overcompensating one way to get a shot on a different area.